Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering what are the steps to writing a book. The fact that you found this video tells me that you're at the beginning of this process. There's a big learning curve and there's a lot of steps ahead, but you know what? You're in the right place and I'm happy to help guide the way. My name is Dan Good. I am written or ghostwritten 30 plus books over the last 5 years, and I am happy to help give you some insights, and this doesn't have to be overwhelming. I'm going to give you 5 steps that can help you be successful. By the end of this video, you will learn why your book topic matters, how to start writing, and why you shouldn't cut corners. And stay tuned until the end of the video for a resource I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. So you want to write a book. Congratulations. This is a journey, it's a challenge, it's a huge undertaking, but you can do it. It's possible. First things first, though, you have to figure out what you're actually going to write. What topic are you going to write about? This could be a book about your life. It could be a book about something that you've learned. It could be about your business or career. It could be about your family story. It could be anything. And that's what's exciting. You can write about so many different topics, but ultimately you really need to figure out what makes you the person to write this book. What is the story that you're sharing? By being able to make sense of this topic, by being able to understand what you want to focus on, it's going to make the process easier. You know, if you're scattershot all over the place and don't really know what you want to write, it's going to be confusing and challenging. It's going to be difficult. You want to narrow down on a book topic and you want to find something that is going to engage you for the next 6, 9, 12 months. If book writing takes time, book topics are important too, because this is a friend you want to spend time with. This isn't a friend you ignore their calls and don't want to talk to them. That's a way to write a book that you're not going to finish. If you start writing a book that's about a topic that doesn't interest you, it's a non-starter. You're not going to go very far with it. You really need to find a book topic that compels you, that forces you to want to keep working on it. That wakes you up in the middle of the night with like all these ideas, that gets you energized to work on your downtime on weekends. That you're walking around with this story in your mind. That's the kind of book you want to write, because this is a journey and you want to be engaged throughout the entire process. Once you have this idea in mind, the next step is to gather information, to do research. I remember when I wrote a book about a baseball player named Ken Caminiti. I started writing the book in 2012, got published in 2022, so that's a 10-year stretch. And I spent a year researching his life before I called anybody. But I knew that I needed to talk to people and do a ton of research to gain information and understanding. Otherwise, who am I to write this book? I didn't know Ken. I wish I had. He was an awesome guy. But I didn't know him. Other people did. So I needed to talk to them and get their perspectives to be informed enough to be the expert that I could write this book. Your topic could be similar. Maybe it's a business topic. Maybe it's something that you experienced in your career that you have firsthand. Going back to a baseball story, if I wanted to write a book about being a Major League Baseball player, and I was a Major League Baseball player, that's great. I have the knowledge myself to be able to write the book. Sadly, I was not a Major League Baseball player, so I don't have that firsthand experience. But then you need to talk to other people to gather it. So that goes back to your story too. Whatever story you're trying to tell, maybe it's a story inside of you, and maybe it's a story that you're telling about other people, about a topic. You want to do research, whether it's about your life or not. You want to do research and do interviews and get different vantage points. So you're telling the most complete, authoritative story that you can. You don't want to have gaps. You don't want to have pieces where you didn't do the work. You don't want to have questions and challenges to the authenticity of your storytelling or the message that you're trying to share. You want to just cover every single thing and let the reader know as they're reading this story that this is authoritative, that you covered it, that you got this thing nailed. But it takes time and it requires research, no matter what the story is, no matter what the topic is. One other element of research too is to research the marketplace. What other books exist on similar topics? You don't want to write a book that's already been published. You don't want to recreate something that's very successful. You don't want to write the next version of Atomic Habits when Atomic Habits has sold 20 million copies and there's really not a lot more that you can say that's going to tap into that space unless you have something new to say. But at the same time, It's so valuable to understand what the marketplace looks like, how your book looks different, reads differently, is unique compared to every other book, and also positioning it against other books. It's like this other book, but different. How is it different? What gap is it filling in this marketplace? What gap is it filling in people's knowledge? It needs to be unique and different in order to stand out. The more you can do to understand your unique value add to this topic, whatever you're writing about, the better it's going to be, the easier it's going to be to find readers, to get people excited, and get people to want to read your book. Once you've figured out your topic and done this research and information, the next step is really to do book foundation work, to lock in the story, to make the story as strong as possible. When I talk about book foundation work, there's 3 key elements at play that I want to share with you. One is the hook. The hook is the reader takeaway, the reader benefit, and how they're going to carry forward this message with their life. There needs to be a strong reader hook to get them to want to keep reading. Just like you need purpose to want to keep writing your book, the reader needs purpose to want to keep reading the book. If they know that there's awesomeness on the end of this, that there's some great thing at the end of this book, and not just at the end, but throughout and leading up to the ending, they're going to stick with it because they know there's value in it. If they don't see value, they're going to stop reading. And that's how it is. I mean, you read books, you probably get to a certain point, you're like, what's the point of me reading this anymore? You don't want to have that happen. So you want to really understand what the hook is. And you want to make that clear from the very beginning, from the early going. The next step to book foundation work is audience. Who is your book for? And speak to them directly. You can give them names. You can make up imaginary names for the people that you're speaking to. What's their background? What's their education level? What jobs do they have? What family life do they have? Who are they? If you can understand who you're speaking to, it's going to make it a lot easier to tailor your message to their needs, to what they're going to want to do to read your book. You want to write a book to them specifically so you can really tap into that audience. And then when the book comes out, you can promote the book to them. It really makes it compelling to be able to have that connection with your audience. The next element of book foundation work is your outline. How is your book structured? What are the chapters from beginning to end? What's the reader journey look like? If you can figure out what's inside the scope of your book, it's going to make the writing process so much easier because now you don't have to waste time on stuff that isn't in the book. You don't have to write the things that aren't in your book itself. After you've figured out the scope and the hook and the audience and outline, the next step is to write. Write the thing, write the book. And the writing process is really where your creativity and your flourishes and your voice and your personality can come through. This is where you can really show yourself and showcase your fingerprints all over this book. This is something special that's uniquely yours, and you have a unique voice. Your voice is like your fingerprint. It's like a snowflake. There's no other book, there's no other author that has your voice. So bring out your uniqueness in the story. You don't want to sound like everybody else. You want to sound like you. When I focus on writing, there's really 2 ways that I think about writing. The first is to sit at the keyboard and type away, and the other is to record audio of myself and use audio voice-to-text transcription tools to turn conversation into chapters. It's obviously requiring some refinement. It's not like you can just dump the text in and there you go, voila, you have a chapter. It's not like that. But at the same time, it's great to get words down quickly. It's great to have this foundation of text to work from. And it's a lot easier than looking at a blank page and a blinking cursor, which is the worst feeling in the world. It's so much easier to have something to work from and to shape and, chip away at and cobble than, nothing. I really enjoy using voice-to-text transcription tools. And if you're somebody who uses your voice and talks very entertainingly about stories, you have a really compelling storytelling format when you're telling stories, engaging with other people, you might consider doing voice-to-text transcription to get your stories out. The last step in this video that I want to cover is not to give up and not to cut corners. It's so easy to focus on just getting to the finish line, just slapping something together, putting a cover on it, posting it on Amazon. That's not the way to have an impact. You really need to do it right. When I was a kid and I played football, we had this saying, do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it all day long. And it really reinforced the message to me of not cutting corners. Even if it takes a little bit longer the first time, if you do it the right way, like it's freeing, And if you do it the wrong way, it's going to come back. It's going to come back to bite you when it matters the most. In those situations, your book is not going to look as good. Your book is not going to be as cleanly edited. So when someone picks it up and reads it and they say, oh, there's all these grammatical errors, they must have rushed it. They didn't do a good job. All the work that you put in could be completely wasted because you cut corners on editing, or you didn't work with a high quality designer or did it yourself and maybe you didn't have the skills. It's so easy to want to rush ahead and just push things forward and publish it, but just spend the time, pause, breathe, make sure to get it right, make sure to work with professionals, to do it the right way. And if you do it the right way, there's so many gains and opportunities on the opposite side of that. But you don't want to see all your work wasted by a bad edit or by bad design. I just want to make sure for you that you don't rush, because rushing is the way to write a book that no one's going to read, and you don't want that. If you want to learn more about what are the steps to writing a book, I have an opportunity I want to share with you. It's an accountability course, a good book accountability course. We meet weekly. We talk about areas of the book writing process. We build momentum. We uplift each other. It's really encouraging, and I just think it would be great for you to check it out if you're interested. If you want to learn more, head to my website. It's goodbookmastery.com. You can click the link below and see if you're interested in joining the course. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.